this video, we're going to talk about test cases kind of in general, because I can't honestly remember if I made a test case video or not. If I haven't, this is still worthwhile because it's a new kind of test case that we can use with the OnKeyHolds function. But yeah, testing yourself is all good and fun and everything, but sometimes you want to just call a function a specific number of times. And things like onMouse move, onMouse drag, OnKeyHold, as you're doing it, you're not going to be able to have it called only once. When you're holding down a key, it's going to get called in rapid succession, right? As quickly as the clock ticks on this computer, basically, it's going to call this OnKeyHold function over and over and over. So in your exercises, they'll be putting test cases in to check and see and, run the autograder, make sure everything's good. I just wanted to show you how it might be useful for yourself for, just kind of getting to understand how to use test cases yourself, and specifically the OnKeyHolds function as well. You can see I had to just look it up again really quick over here in this tab, but don't you worry about it. All right. So if you hadn't watched the previous video, we were practicing the OnKeyHold function, and as I move around, I have a little program that makes my character move, even going diagonally, I might add, which is pretty cool. What I want to do now is just show, like, let's say we had an error here, or maybe you wanted to, this is really for just messing with the autograder, but there might be certain situations where you want to really check, like, what if I call this 3 times? You're having some really weird case in debugging it. I just want to show you how you can test things out. So on the bottom here, outside of, everything else, I'm going to say, test cases. And usually in exercises, they'll say, like, test cases don't mess around below here. We're going to mess around below here a little bit. And I'm just going to call the OnKeyHold function. So that is this function that we already defined here, the special function that gets called automatically when you press keys. But we're going to call it ourselves manually here. So I'm going to make a call OnKeyHold, and I'm going to send it the right key. And so now when I run the program, instead of having my triangle just starting straight up and down, because I pressed the right key on my OnKeyHold call over here, it should have rotated and moved a tiny bit. You probably won't see the move, but the rotate should be obvious. So let's try it. And you can see there my triangle is now facing to the right because the OnKeyHold function got called with the right button. If I go again and I say OnKeyHold maybe up this time, now, well, maybe I should say down actually. Now it'll go once to the right, once to the right over here. I can't really use a mirroring, and then once down. It's not mirrored vertically. That would be really weird. So now it should be facing downwards and a tiny bit to the right and a tiny bit down. So I run it. You'll see now the triangle is facing down. And if you notice, if I hold control here, it actually is at the coordinates 205, 205, because it went one call to the right and one call down. Now, if I hold just for an instant, all of a sudden it's gone, like it called 3 times in the instant that I held it. So this is why you might want to use these test cases just to check, like, am I moving at the exact right amount of space, each time that I call it. Next thing is the OnKeyHolds function. Because it's the name of the function that we put the S in there, it's actually a totally different function. And this function actually expects 2 bits of information. One is a list of all of the keys that were held down. I think I should be able to just hold a single key first, but we will get into how to do the list in a moment. And then the second number that it expects as input is how many ticks of OnKeyHold do you want to call it for? So I'm going to say, I want you to call this for 10 calls of OnKeyHold. So it's going to, now what's going to happen here is it's going to call OnKeyHold inputting right, and it's going to call it 10 times. And you should be able to see that it has moved. Ah, okay. So it looks like we got some constructors here. OnKeyHold is allowed to hold a single key or a list of keys. OnKeyHolds only ever accepts a list. It gave us, I mean, let me zoom in on the error here, but it just said, OnKeyHolds, an error occurred here. OnKeyHolds, the keys must be a list. So I can't just give it a single key. That's okay. I'm just going to put it inside of a little set of square brackets here, and that's going to tell it, hey, I'm actually sending you a list. Now, it's a list of only one thing, but it's still a list. It's just, you know, we're not talking about lists in this lesson. Let's keep going. So now you should see, all right, this thing moved, and you might have even seen it kind of go down a little bit and then to the right afterwards, right? Let's try running it again. Oh, no, whatever. Okay. But you'll see it's pointing to the right. God, I can't, whatever. Sorry about the mirroring on the image. It's pointing to the right, and it went to 205 because it went down once, and then it went to the right 11 times, so it's a 255 now. If I wanted to, though, and here's where, you know, it's worthwhile, I think, teaching you this OnKeyHolds thing, is let's say I wanted to test if it was moving diagonally. Well, a list, and again, we are going to talk about lists more later on, but a list is just kind of like, it's what you think a list is. It's just a collection of several different things, one after another. So I can send, in OnKeyHolds, I can send it the right and the up key, and now it's a list holding on to right and up, and now it should be moving diagonally a little bit. OnKeyHold, just as kind of like a little extra bit here, OnKeyHold does take lists also, so I can send it right and up over here as well, and if I comment that out, get rid of it, comment that out, get rid of it, this should, if I put the ending square bracket over there, this should actually do that diagonal thing as well without moving it, and it does. So the whole idea here, just showing test cases, it's you manually calling functions that are otherwise kind of like called specially by you clicking or you pressing a button or holding a button or dragging the mouse, and it can be valuable if you want to test very specifically like, hey, is this working when I call the function with, you know, holding the right key and the up key, and it will, you know, just run it one time, and that way you're not kind of like holding multiple things and multiple things happen. What if I had like on key release here that totally resets something when I let go? Well, that would make it really hard for me to test. So the idea is you can use test cases yourself and not just leave it to the auto grader and try to figure it out by holding and pressing down buttons. Anyways, this video should have been shorter, and I'm sure I'm going to stop complaining about how long my videos are to myself at the end of videos, but hopefully that was somewhat useful. It's not like the most interesting new kind of like, wow, this is a really cool thing to learn, but it's definitely valuable to know how to use test cases and kind of manually call different functions. And they just kind of said in the exercise here, in the notes here, to just ignore OnKeyHolds. And, you know, here's a little bit behind the curtain, a little bit of a foreshadowing for lists if you're, you know, keen enough to be watching these videos all the way through. All right, anyways, I'm done rambling. Peace out. See you in the next video.